Oh man, what did they do to Firestaff this patch? Well, this is exactly what they did. They doubled the frequency of burning, but they did not reduce the damage, so burning's damage was basically doubled. This might not seem like such a huge deal until you realize that like 30% of Firestaff's outgoing damage is freaking burn damage, so doubling that damage is a huge buff not just to any Firestaff ability, but every Firestaff ability. I'm talking even the crappy ones like Incinerate. Yeah. So anyway, I've got a build for you guys today. I love Firestaff Rapier and I wanted to try this setup out, and oh my god, Firestaff feels so good right now. This particular combo has been a crazy amount of fun. Incinerate and Flurry I find is such a good counter to a melee fighter for a Firestaff Rapier build. So yeah, kind of giving you a really good ability just to mitigate that damage like that, get your stamina back, and just kite people out. Anyhow, we're gonna get into that PvP commentary right away. There is a written build guide linked down below for you guys, and there is a full breakdown of this build at the end of the video. Or I guess the second half of the video, if you guys want to see it. And in that breakdown, we also talk about how you can kind of get some of the gear and what realistically you can get at this stage of Fresh Start, because I know, you know, posting a maxed out endgame build, nobody's going to have that right now. So kind of making realistic goals for you guys with the builds too. Anyhow, let's get into that PvP commentary. The beginning fight, oh my god, I like this first fight because it just shows the damage of Firestaff and the mobility and the combination of adding the Flurry on Rapier. We can just stand in front of people and do tons of damage to them. And it's at the point where I've killed enough of these guys, they're just riding by, they don't even want to stop. But this guy, he gets off his horse and stops. I throw the fireball on the ground, unfortunately, doesn't get where I want, and there's that Incinerate. The stagger is so useful, and right away it opens up offensive potential for me, just interrupting his combo right off the bat. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. And here, this guy, he goes to come back through me, and it looks like some friendlies showed up. I thought he would come back towards me because I didn't see the friendlies till I turned around. So I did pop the Incinerate. Anyhow, the friendlies show up. I end up just going a little bit forward here, and I run into another enemy player that's coming around the corner. I jump on top of him, get good damage, and then take him down with the Firestaff, and right away jump on top of the Hammer player here. I right away try to get close to the Hammer player. Against Hammer Great Axe, honestly, I really like this build because we can just control that distance so well. And the friendly NPC there just putting a lot of damage into him. But something I want to mention here, this build is running Healing Breeze, and you can see how easily and frequently it procs Healing Breeze. Not only will it proc off of the Tumbler Feet Wrap, but on top of it, the Healthy Toast drink will proc your Healing Breeze too. So you actually have a lot of healing on demand with this build versus something that doesn't have Healthy Toast to give that guaranteed proc with the Healing Breeze. And there you see such a good combo on that guy. We just constantly move around him with the Rapier, and we take advantage of the distance and just that invulnerability. And here you can see again, I go in on the group and I go for the Flurry and then evade into them, and then I quickly back out. And having that kind of invulnerability while being able to just trade with players, oh my god, in these kinds of situations where you're outnumbered, it makes a huge difference. And there you see again, we can get a couple pokes, get some stand back, and get some damage in. Now, these guys are all trying to work on the enemy there. I get good damage from that, but unfortunately, I think I got hit by a Scream on the Void Gauntlet, and Immobilize got me there. But I like the end of that clip because it does show, even outnumbered, we have good offensive pressure and good survivability. And I love this, just kind of showing off a little bit of not only the solo, but group potential of a build like this. I always like to include a little bit of group stuff with this build simply because it is a Firestaff build. Firestaff has crazy good AoE, and you are likely going to have lots of opportunities to use this build really effectively in these larger scale fights. Not only can it drop those bombs quickly and get away, but I really like how we can just stick to a target even through the enemy group like that. We stay on top of our target and are able to take him down. And then we just go back inside on these guys. I go for the Incinerate. He ends up backing off. And I go for the pokes. I like just popping out the pokes even if we miss them. Just having that invulnerability is super valuable. And if we have a player near us like that, I'm expecting him to come in with a stun or something. Yeah. The trade on that, it's a very good skill. I go in here, drop the fireball, and then go for an Incinerate. I get okay damage, but they got a lot of players here. And again, just kind of flexing the mobility that a build like that has. And a little bit more group footage. Again, we jump in, big damage, and we manage to get the stagger on the Firestaff as well. And getting those staggers at those moments, man, those are the ones that matter. We managed to kind of take the doorway there, and then I push back in here, get the bomb down. Oh my god, 2 connections with the burnout there. Something to note there is that that attack, both of the crits did a total of, I think, 4,700-ish damage, but the burning ticks are 100 damage each. He had 4 ticks of burning on him. Yeah, that's like 800 damage a second. I don't even know what to say. Firestaff's burning is so freaking ridiculous. Again, we go for that burnout. We drop in. There's huge damage on the fireball. This guy tries to escape, and we get on top of him with the rapier, and there are the pokes to finish him off. And the other player comes here, always changing directions as I roll. We manage to just kind of juke away from the spear guy, and he backs up a little bit. And I'm just going to kind of rebuff and go back in here. I try to get in with the burnout. Unfortunately, I'm just a little far away and awkward. Just no stamina there. Ooh, man. Or sorry, no magicka. So I didn't cast my ability, just ate a big attack from that guy. He jumps out and chases me. And here we get the heavy attack into the Inferno. Oh my god, man. People, they don't expect it. People don't use Inferno in PvP. They don't expect it. It's such a fast stagger now. Oh, I love it so much, and here we go. We go in for the bomb, the burnout, into the Inferno. This guy drops to like 1 HP. Oh, man, he was squishy, but man, that combo is so satisfying. And then all of the burn damage we throw on everybody there, just devastating. So, yeah, guys, I hope you enjoy the footage for this one, because I gotta say, just watching it, Firestaff has so much freaking damage. It's gross. It's actually gross. Here you can see we're like trading with the bow player, and just the dots from the Firestaff wearing him down. The other player comes in and he bonks into the Inferno, turns around to try to trade, and I feed him the flurry. Oh my god, man. And we're going to give him one more flurry here as he goes all hatchet man on us, and we back away. Such a powerful skill, again, utilizing both of these abilities to heavily counter a melee opponent. And I know Hatchet is a huge problem for people right now, and I am having a lot of success with that combo right there against the Hatchet players. Even while getting shot at from the bow player, I'm able to put the combo in and get that guy. Ooh, and I eat a nasty fireball trying to go into that one there. I go for it. Just kind of bad timing on the invulnerability for me, but look at those nasty fire dot burns. Oh, man. Okay, let's take a look at that build. Starting off with the attribute points. As you guys can see here, I am running 100 con on this build. You could go for 150, even 200 con if you want. Honestly, more health is pretty useful, so I just prefer to play really squishy. You could go squishier too if you really want, but I think 100 con is playing this build at a pretty squishy level. And then I've got 100 dex and everything else in intelligence. So hear me out. If we put those 100 points in intelligence here instead of dexterity, we would actually deal less damage with the Firestaff, because we get the 5% base damage while at full health, the 5% base damage while stamina is not full here, and we get that crit chance too. But yeah, that 10% increase in base damage is going to give us more Firestaff damage than these last 100 points will. There are incredibly diminishing returns on the points at this stage, especially for Firestaff stacking intel, and you actually can't stack past 500, so that's the max you can put in a stat. If I was totally maxed on this build in 725 gear score, I think I would go for 150 con, 400, and 150, or maybe going 450, or even going for some focus to put a little bit more cooldown reduction and some healing power on this build. But for the most part, this is what you want to go for. The 100 dex is also super nice because the rapier scales from it, and it gives us a little bit more damage there. Now, taking a look at the weapon mastery on this build, we're going to start off with the rapier. I have gone for a bit of a different rapier kit here. I am using the flesh and evade combo that I love using in PvP so much. Of course, fully pointed out all of these guys and getting momentum, and then all of these nice passives here for cooldown reduction and movement speed and stamina return. The same as I always do. The only extra passive I have this time is actually the 5% more base damage on a bleed, because we didn't fill out all of riposte and instead went for the first 3 points in flurry. I am running leeching flurry on this build, and I'm really loving it. Now, people have told me so many times to try this out, and I never had a proper setup for it. Finally, I have a proper setup for it, and holy crap, the synergy between this flurry and incinerate on the Firestaff is insanely good. I did not think it would be that good. It is so good. Anyway, the skill itself is amazing. It deals great damage. It gives you life back as you use it, and you have invulnerability when you use it. And it has a really fast cooldown. On top of it, the multiple pokes will give you a huge stamina return. Yeah, just a great utility skill. The thing that I like using Flurry for is kind of replacing Riposte now. When I use the Riposte instead, just go for a few Flurry pokes and then roll out of it thanks to that additional stamina gen that you get. So that's the real big change to the Rapier tree here this time around. I'm really, really liking this with Incinerate. Now, taking a look at the Fire Staff, this is a weird tree. They made a lot of changes to Incinerate that led me to not taking any points in it except for the very first point. Now, the only thing that I really value from Incinerate would be Cauterized Wounds, quite honestly. The Weaken is nice, but Cauterized Wounds could be a game changer in some situations. That being said, I opted out of going for it and just going for more Fire Staff damage passives instead. You can see I have the first 2 points in Fireball, opting out of the last one here. Again, just focusing on damage and getting that additional Burnout. And then, of course, Burnout you want to have fully upgraded for the big explosion at the end. This is the hardest hitting Fire Staff skill right now. It does so much damage when you connect a full Burnout on someone. Not to mention, if both of the Burnout attacks crit, you can be looking at 3 stacks of burn. So yeah, it is very, very good in that regard. Now, for the passives, I've actually gone with Backdraft. I haven't seen in the footage a whole bunch of amazing stuff out of Backdraft. There are a few times where it gave me a little bit more burst on those heavies, but honestly, I don't know if I really like the point here. I'm going to have to play around with it more to really give my final feedback on how much I do like this. You could go for Runes of Helios, of course, if you moved some passives over to the other side. The reason we don't do this on this build is because we can reach the Empower cap quite easily. With the Runes of Helios, this would put us well over Empower cap, so it's not the best for this setup, but again, it depends really on how good your gear is too. If you have no additional fire damage, Runes of Helios might be the way to go. Now, for the actual passives on this build, I'm just going to talk about the ones I didn't take. We didn't take Spell Focus for Mana Sustain, we didn't take the cooldown reduction from here, and we didn't take the Fortify from Let It Burn. So we basically just took all of the offensive passives, everything that gives us more damage, more burning duration, more critical, whatever, and of course Backdraft for that additional burst on that heavy attack. I also went for Flare because I'm using Backdraft. I figured it would be a little easier to get those Backdraft explosions off if I shoot at the ground. Maybe I'll hit a couple players with them. So far though, like I said, I gotta play more with Backdraft to have a really good or bad opinion on it. I haven't really seen that much out of it yet, so it makes me feel like it might be more of a wasted slot. Anyhow, taking a look at the equipment that I am running on this setup for you guys. Starting off with the first weapon here, I've got the Finisher. This one is pretty easy to get on your Fresh Start journey, honestly. You just have to do the main story quest, and then you have to do the Brimstone main story quest, and then when you're done that, you can go to the Elysian Wilds. As soon as you get access to the Wilds, you can go to Montrapala and farm the Finisher. You just need a group to do it. I wouldn't recommend trying it solo. I'm sure there's some crazy person that could get it done. Anyway, not too hard to get. The ideal perk I want on the end of this is Keenly Jagged. Finisher doesn't have a bleed with this current skill setup that I have, which is really bad. So we're relying basically on the bleed being on our Fire Staff. Yeah, it's not amazing. This is just kind of the undergeared portion of playing right now, but if we had Keenly Jagged, it would be a huge game changer here. And then, of course, for the gem on here, I have gone with Ignited for fire damage because we're putting out as much fire damage as possible. This is the way to go. On top of that, I would go for the Rune Glass gem that deals additional fire damage with some sort of dot. It doesn't have to be the fire dot. I think I would put the fire dot actually on my Fire Staff instead, and then maybe a void dot on the front. And then for the Fire Staff, Vicious, Empowering Incinerate, Keenly Jagged. I actually really like this staff. I would prefer to have something like Alacritous Punishment instead of Vicious, but that is definitely a bit of a pipe dream to get such a nice staff so early on the fresh start. This is not bad at all. I really like Keenly Jagged because we need it in order to get that 15% damage bonus from Finisher, so a very important perk to have here. Empowering Incinerate. Man, I didn't think this would be so good. I'll be honest. Incinerate has been nerfed like crazy, and it is so good on this build, and it deals quite a bit of damage. The burns that it puts out is no joke. The burning that Fire Staff does now is the big reason why Fire Staff is so strong now. Its burning damage was doubled from the last patch. Same amount of damage, double the frequency, same duration time. Yeah, so anything that you hit someone with that can apply a burn is going to be deadly, and I think that's a big buff to Incinerate as well. Now, taking a look at the jewelry here. For the amulet, I've got Stamina Recovery, Health, and Shirking Debilitating Cleanse. I would like either Shirking Dot Cleanse here, or something like Thrust, or even Fire Protection, or even Slash Protection because of those Hatchet guys running around right now. Otherwise, health, stamina, recovery are definitely the way to go. On the ring, I got Abyss Ring. It cost me 10k on the trade post. I am 100% convinced people don't know how much certain items are worth. Yeah, very happy about this. Hardy, fire damage, healing breeze. You cannot ask for more on this build, except for this to be 725 gear score, but outside of that, like, this is as good as it gets. So very, very happy with this ring. And then, of course, the earring. I also got Abyss Earring. Healthy Toast, Refreshing Toast, Regenerating. If I had the Endless Thirst, I would use that instead here, but since I don't, this is best in slot. All the healing you can get in the world coming out of this earring. And then for the armor, again, I don't have the best armor on this build. We do have Leeching Flurry, and I even have Refreshing Flesh on there, which is honestly not amazing. I wouldn't recommend putting that on your build. That's more just for fun because I had a piece that happened to have it. But Leeching Flurry, you definitely do want to have. This is going to be a huge deal. You could also run Empowering Fireball. It got nerfed big time, but it's still pretty useful. I think something worth mentioning is that the burns are really strong right now. So Empowering Fireball can apply 2 stacks of burns. Even though the damage got nerfed, Fireball is doing huge damage. So you don't really need the Empowering to get that good damage, I guess. So it's optional. You don't need it. It's up to you. Yeah, otherwise I'm focusing on Freedom and Refreshing and Elemental Aversion as my perks of choice here. Physical Aversion on these guys because that is my artifact piece. Shirking Energy on the legs for the stamina recovery goes a really long way too. And then for the artifact, I love Tumbler's Feet Wraps for a few reasons. There's a lot of synergy for the healing on this build. So the Shirking Blessing will not only give us a heal every 1 second, such a nice cooldown on it, but it can proc the Healing Breeze, which is a really good heal over time for us. On top of it, since this build is using mana potions and we have the Healthy Toast, that will also proc Healing Breeze. So we have really easy access to the healing power on this build, which I think is actually pretty incredible, you know? We basically have 2 regen potions, which is kind of nice. And yeah, outside of that, the Empower that this gives us allows us to push over 40% Empower without having the additional fire damage on our armor here. We'd be at 50% Empower on this build if we had the fire damage Rune Glass gems on the armor, which is ideally what we would have, but Fresh Start, you don't always get what you want. So yeah, I gotta say, really, really good piece of gear, especially for early game Fresh Start PvP. You get to end game and you want to be competitive against the guys who have all that healing. This is going to help bridge that gap for sure. And then for the gems on this stuff, you guys can see with my resist, 15% thrust, 16% fire, and 10% all elemental. I would like some slash resist here. Honestly, maybe taking off maybe just doing 10% across the board is the best way to go right now. People aren't really speccing super hard. Like, I don't see as many ranged players as I did in OPR. I don't know. I feel like there's less rangers now, so maybe you can build a little bit less against range damage. But I would recommend building against fire damage for sure, and probably slash damage. And then thrust damage is always a safe bet. But yeah, these are the resists I went. The only thing I struggle with is hatchet players if they get on top of me. But thankfully, Rapier has a good kit to kind of fend them off. And then taking a look at the supplies, of course, you want to run regens, health potions, the food, and the mana potion, all very important. And last but not least, I got my Stoneform Heart Rune. I would like to upgrade to the one that heals me. Outside of that, very happy that I got it. It gives us a stun break that we do not have on this build, so really awesome for that kind of utility. And well, that is the build. I got one funny little clip for you guys here, and that's it for the day. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I'll be on a new build tomorrow, so look forward to that. Otherwise, catch me on Twitch. Bye, everybody.